Welcome once again to my marriage channel. This is Agre, your counselor. Today I want to talk about the 6 circumstances that will test your faithfulness in building a happy and successful marriage. 6 circumstances that will test your faithfulness. Now, whenever we are getting married, these are the vows that we always make at the altar. We say, during all circumstances, we are required to be faithful in good health, in bad health, in sickness, in poverty. But I want you to know, many couples fail on those vows. And in this video, in this teaching, I want to give you 6 circumstances that will test your faithfulness. And I want you to watch and be mindful of them. Whenever you see it coming, remember that, be reminded that you are asked to remain faithful, remain to your vow. So number 1 is sickness. Now, most people, when their spouses get sick, especially for a long time, they are normally patient for some time, they tend to give up. They tend to lose hope in the recovery of their patient, of their spouse. And as a result, they begin looking for other ways to satisfy themselves outside. So most of the times when a spouse is sick, people tend to be unfaithful using that reason and say, my wife has issues. Maybe your wife got complications during giving birth and they are unable to do much of the work at home. They are able to engage in all the wife activities. They are nursing wounds. They are going through a tough time of sickness. And you are supposed to stand with your wife. You're supposed to stand with your spouse. Maybe your husband got an accident. I mean, sickness is one thing that will test your faithfulness. So I want to ask you that whenever your spouse gets sick or they're going through a very hard and tough time, please, you are asked to be faithful. So whenever your spouse is sick, if you're watching this video and your spouse is going through a period of sickness, it is a time to show utmost faithfulness. It's the time to show utmost love. It is a time that you must show that you really, really care. So that is number 1. Sickness will test your faithfulness. Number 2 is joblessness. Hey, joblessness. Now, we are living in a generation where jobs matter. Jobs are a source of income, and people will get used to an understanding that my spouse or my husband is working and is providing. So what happens when your husband or your wife loses their job, or most times the husband loses the job and they are unable to provide? Will you still be faithful? Will you still honor them? Will you still respect them? Will you still do whatever you are doing? Please, I want to let you know that joblessness of either you or your spouse will test your faithfulness. And as usual, we are asked to stay faithful at all times. So watch yourself when your husband loses the job. Are you still honoring? Are you still respecting? That is very important for you to consider. So remember, when next time your husband loses the job or your wife loses the job, make sure you're supposed to remain faithful. Those are the vulnerable times when you're actually supposed to stand with your spouse in their trying time. Number 3 is what we call long distance. Long distance is a very good test of faithfulness. I remember when I was away from my wife and she was not there with me. I was overseas and she was somewhere, she was back home. I was asked to remain faithful even when my wife was not seeing me. So for many people, long distance is a real good test. I've seen people who come, who are transferred to different areas and only to start moving in with their co-workers when they left their families at some distance behind. So long distance, remember that whenever you find yourself in a long distance relationship, if you you have a test of faithfulness, and you must be faithful at all times. So faith long distance is a very, very important test note, especially that you are away from your wife and your spouse, they are not seeing you. So make sure you remain faithful. And number 4 is what we call sudden prosperity. Hey, I have seen men who were poor with their wives, they loved each other, they cherished one another, but when it so happened that they got some money, they got some promotion, they got a good job, they drove, they got a good car, immediately they forget their spouses. Sudden prosperity is a very big test. If surely God is blessing you, remember you have a test to remain faithful. Don't leave your wife behind. Don't leave your husband behind. You were together in poverty. Please, now that prosperity has come, now that her wealth has come, remember to be faithful to them. Sudden prosperity is a test of faithfulness. Number 5 is poverty. Poverty is a monster. If someone can be faithful to you during those hard times, that person is really your person. So I want to encourage you, even in hard times, when you guys are going through lack, insufficiency, you have a test to be faithful. Remember, there is always an attraction coming from outside, saying, please, you can do better there, you can do better there. There is always that loss of hope, saying, this person, tetuja kumalako, we cannot really make it. I need to go somewhere. No, it is a test. When you guys are going through insufficiency, you are going through lack, it is a test to remain faithful. It is a time to be together. It's not a time to just start moving out, using poverty as an excuse. So you have, when you guys are going through that hard time of lack and insufficiency, remember you have a test to remain faithful. Lastly is what we call childlessness. Lack of children. Now you might be watching this video and maybe you have spent some years in your marriage and you don't have children. Please, I want you to know I sympathize with you. It is a very, very hard task, but it is also a test of faithfulness. Especially with our culture, where if a woman does not give birth, she's looked at as a curse, someone who has come to finish the family, someone who's eating food for nothing, someone who's, just nothing. In Africa, childbearing is attached to the value of a woman. So, when your wife has not given birth, please, it is a tiny test to remain faithful. You will hear sometimes your mother-in-law saying, find somewhere where you can give birth to children outside, leaving your wife home. And then the wife will also start to try out of that pressure, will also go and start being unfaithful outside. So childlessness, that period when you have not given birth, it is a test of faithfulness. Remember, your vows are for worse, for better, in poverty, in health, whether they are children, whether they are not. Your faithfulness is in all and all circumstances. I want to encourage you, please, faithfulness is a virtue that you need to build a healthy and successful marriage. Now, we give them in summary 6 circumstances. Number 1 is sickness. Number 2, joblessness. Number 3, long distance. Number 4, sudden prosperity. Number 5 is poverty. And lastly is childlessness. Of course, there are very many, but those 6 will pull your leg. Subscribe. I will see you in the next video.